Today, we're looking at Private Reserve's Velvet Black. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Private Reserve's Velvet Black is a black ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples, I put the ink into a different pen for a day, I then put it into a cross Bailey with a medium nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we go to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And this is a complex ink. We see this green line across the bottom. That green is really seeping in very immediately, but it's green that pushes up to a neat blue with kind of a magenta tone across the top. Very, very interesting. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And what we see is that green really stayed in place. It's the green that stays in place. Some green pushes its way up. We start to see some of the blue, and we see more of that magenta tone at the top, as some of the inks haven't been able to travel as far yet. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean out of your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it handles itself very well. That extra fine is still an extra fine. There's no blowout. There is a tiny bit of some feathering that occurs, but nothing that would make me not want to use it as a note taker. Now, water, you see that little bit there, it's only taking some of the darkest areas off. It is really not having much effect on this ink. Pen Flush is removing a whole lot more, but not a lot of this ink. So water got rid of so little that when the Pen Flush got in and got rid of a ton more, it still didn't get rid of a whole lot. That green that we saw at the bottom of the chromatography, very there, not budging. 1/3 bleach solution is completely removing it from the pen, or from the paper. We do see little coloration changes, spots, but again, we're only giving it 30 seconds. And what I'm seeing is that the 1/3 bleach solution absolutely will get this completely out of your pen. Just make sure that after you use it, you flush your pen well with water so that you don't rust your metal parts. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Private Reserve's Velvet Black has a viscosity of 2.76, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Private Reserve's Velvet Black has an average dry time of 13 seconds, making it just get in under the wire as normal. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. It is a lovely, dark, basic black. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 9 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 14 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows us no color variation. We didn't expect it. We didn't get it in the smear test. You could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. Tomoe River. No bleeding. Plenty of ghosting. It's Tomoe River. What do you expect? The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. 13 seconds to dry.
The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade, 19 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it. And the smear test, I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Rhodia, no bleeding, only some minor ghosting, very minor. I don't think it would stop, 99% of people out there from using the back of the page. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 8 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 13 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it, we didn't get it. In the smear test, you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. This is a beautifully boring black ink. It is so consistent and on. Monokaki paper, Monokaki. It has no bleeding, it has ghosting. It's a thin paper. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 6 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1, with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. And I'm just curious, are we even seeing tone difference for it's not? It is just flat out the same black all the time. That is nice. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it, we didn't get it. In the smear test, you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. TWSBI notebooks, I like them. No bleeding, minor ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 9 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 16 seconds to dry. Now that's a little long for me on this paper, but it's not too shabby. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it. And the smear test, you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. Last up is Moji notebook paper. It gets no bleeding and no ghosting. And it's the strangest result of any of them. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a tad bit lighter than the 1.1. It's the first time we see color variation is this paper. The extra fine has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shading, 4 seconds to dry. Now medium is significantly darker than the extra fine. It is a little bit darker than the 1.1. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 5 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it. And the smear test, you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. This has been the only paper that I see any difference in the tone of the black. This has been a perfectly behaved, beautifully boring black ink. I like it as a color in its performance. I do. And that is all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Private Reserve's Velvet Black, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Now, black, you can choose just about anything, and I went and put it with a blue, a slightly different kind of blue, the Atramentis Pigeon. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Private Reserve's Velvet Black? This is a great, dark, basic black with no shading whatsoever, which is how I prefer my blacks. I do not like my blacks to have shading, which makes this one really good. My problem turns to this is one of a few samples I had that started to maybe turn. I'm not sure. I had a couple of samples that turned. This one had about 2 days after I did the writing samples, this had floaties. It was weird. I don't know if they were there when I did the writing samples. I don't remember seeing them. But about 2 days after, when I went to use up the writing sample or the rest of the sample, I didn't put it into a pen because it started to have some floaties. Again, I had a couple of private reserve inks that did that. I do understand that they fixed that problem. This could have just been an older ink that I got as a sample. Thanks for watching.